Welcome back to the FitMinute podcast, fitness for real people, with your host, Gabrielle Mazar. On this week's podcast, Gabrielle interviews mindset coach and neuroscience expert Zahra Karsan, the CEO of GetZend and author of 6 Weeks to Happy. They discuss the secret to living your happiest life and the Zend App, a positive thoughts app to relax or change your state of mind. And now here's your host, personal trainer and stretch therapist, Gabrielle Mazar.
Welcome back to the FitMinute podcast, Fitness for Real People. I'm your host, Gabby Mazar, and on today's episode, I have Zahra Karsan, the CEO of GetZend and the author of 6 Weeks to Happy, the ultimate roadmap to retrain your brain for better health, greater abundance, and long-lasting happiness. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, Gabby.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Why don't we get started by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and what GetZend is?
Sure. Well, my name is Zahra Karsan. As you said, I have a background in neuroscience, positive psychology, and mindset coaching and consulting. And I've done many things, from being a management consultant and executive coach, running big projects up to 45 million, to having my own coaching practice and working with individuals, from different ranges, from students all the way up to C-level executives. And I started seeing patterns in the data, and that I wanted to really understand, what are these patterns in human behavior that I'm uncovering here? Because they were sort of revealing themselves to me. And I thought, this is fascinating. And I think this could be really powerful and really help people. So then I went to study neuroscience and positive psychology. And I realized, oh my God, the data is all just confirming everything I was seeing in my coaching practice over so many years. And I said, okay, this is a book. I was searching for a set of tools that I could teach people to help them start coaching themselves. And I realized there was so much unnecessary suffering and so much unnecessary stress in our lives, because we are wired for survival, and it sometimes works counter to our goals towards health, happiness, and wealth. And I thought, well, I became fascinated with that gap. And so I thought, why don't I build the most powerful and easiest set of tools into a program that I could teach people over a 6-week period, and it'll retrain your brain and bring us back to balance so that we can just live life in a more empowering way. And I put that all into the Rewire system, which is incorporated into the book called 6 Weeks to Happy. So I'm very happy to share that with you and your audience today.
Yeah, so you created the best-selling book, 6 Weeks to Happy. What exactly is in that book? What exactly is it? How does it help to retrain people's brains? What value does it bring to people to create happiness?
Sure, great question. Well, first of all, we evolved to be really good at survival. So, a perfect example of that is our built-in negativity bias. So let's say you have a great presentation, or at work or at school even, and, you get 99 people come up and say, oh my God, you did a fantastic job. You hit some amazing points, really well done. And you have one tiny little criticism that goes something like, oh, I wish you would have included an example about X. And what do we fixate on? Do we focus on the amazing 99 people that came up to us and said, I really connected with your material? Or do we focus on that one little criticism? Well, we focus on the criticism because that's an example of how we're wired. So we are wired, that's called a negativity bias. And where that stems from is that we were built to be on high alert for danger. Our animal self, our Homo sapiens sapiens self, our brains sort of evolved in 3 different stages. So we have one that manages our stress response. That's the old reptilian brain. Then on top of that was formed the mammalian brain, which houses our thoughts and emotions and memories, our encoded memories. And then we have the neocortex, this third part of the brain. That's the newer part of the brain, and that does our critical thinking. So now you can already see why we have some inner conflict, because, for one example, there are 3 parts of the brain that evolved with different purposes. And so if we evolved to be good at survival, those survival patterns, those there's limiting beliefs, and then there are what I call fear patterns that are attached to those belief systems. And it could be around health, it could be around our feeling worthy or deserving of love, in terms of how we feel secure and supported in this life, in terms of our views around money and creating wealth. And they stop us from really having a life that we could really love. And, I think you can define success. In the past, it used to be defined in terms of money, fame, and power. But nowadays, we're all a little wiser. We're all a little more emotionally connected. And we realize we need to incorporate a sense of physical well being for sure, because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And then we need to also incorporate a sense of mental and emotional well being as well. We need to start looking after ourselves better. And too many people are far too stressed, and so I sort of took a process based, like a corporate approach to our personal lives. And I thought, why don't we use the same set of strategies? If we can get a plan to deliver something successfully, part of what we included in that planning was to understand what are the barriers to success. So you're managing your risks. And we don't do that as human beings in our personal life, right? Like, what
Right.
are my barriers to success for being a healthier, in a physically healthier state of mind and state of being and in a physical body? And I don't mean having the perfect six pack. I mean having enough energy to sustain you throughout the day. So you wake up, feeling supercharged, when in fact most of us wake up feeling exhausted. So I thought, why don't I build a bunch of tools? And I took them from so many different disciplines because I thought I was the first guinea pig. It was really my own exploration that turned into a coaching practice, that turned into a book. And I thought, what are the chances anyone has all of these different disciplines in their purview that they can share with people? And it showed up so quickly as a set of quick and powerful tools that people can implement in less than 10 minutes per day to really shift away from that old survival based thinking. And all it takes is some key tools to bring what's unconscious to our conscious awareness. And so I developed a set of tools and a 6-week program to help people do that for themselves.
It's interesting. I just saw recently kind of a timeline of like from the Big Bang to the creation of life on Earth and the human life on Earth. And really, if we think about it, how quickly we have developed from, the Homo sapien and having, Homo erectus, Homo sapien, Homo, to where we are today.
Yes.
The evolution, let's say in a year's time, if we took it from January 1st would be the Big Bang, December 31st at 11:59:01 would be the creation of human life. January 1st at 11 or December 31st at 11:59 and 31 seconds would be where we are today. Or 31.31 would be where we are today. So the evolution of human life is so very, very, very small in consideration of how long the earth has been around, right? So
Yes.
a technology and the brain and how we work, it moves so quickly that we're trying to keep up with it. And it's difficult. So having so much stress in our lives and having so much media, television and radio and cars and computers and phones, it's like we have to learn how to process all these different things, right?
Yeah.
And here we are on Zoom talking to each other, face to face, and you're learning how to process these things. But this is also very new to human life. So how we find happiness, how we find health is still a process to all of us, to everyone, to all human life on this planet, right? So it was fascinating to me because we don't think about it, it's a blink of an eye that we really have just been here. And, we don't think about how we have to put effort into that as in our lives. So, 6 weeks to happy, let's think about it. 6 weeks in the realm of it and putting, in the realm of time and putting effort into it, 10 minutes a day is such a small thing to
Yes.
creating happiness, and habitual things for the rest of your life, right?
Well, and 6 weeks is key because, 6 weeks is really where we can see in brain scans and if, the latest fMRI scans, that the brain is actually changeable. It's not static in nature, it's malleable.
Right,
The
right.
concept of neuroplasticity. And where we see signs of lasting change in the brain is at that 35 to 42 day mark. 42 days, 6 weeks. So I thought, why don't I create 6 weeks of tools and people can just go through a 6 week plan where they can slowly start to, I think of it as almost like you train a muscle at the gym, right? The more you train a particular muscle, the more you strengthen it. Well, I think over time we have unknowingly strengthened our stress response, and we have never really understood, we were never taught that our body has a natural ability to calm itself as well. So in previous days when we were living out in the bush as Homo erectus or whoever we
Yeah,
evolved from, when real and present danger came at us, like in terms of the predator coming at us, that fight or flight response, that stress response that's handled by that first part of your brain, the reptilian brain, it works so well because it acts as a gas pedal. It gives us that rush of adrenaline. We can flee to safety. But back then, our brains would then signal us to say, hey,
we're safe.
no danger anymore. We're safe. Exactly. Let's return back to calm. And you nailed it when you talked about social media and all of these other channels. Every time my phone pings, I think, oh my gosh, it's something demanding my time and my energy. And so it creates it's a little stress trigger almost. And so how do we, what are the tools that we need to really calm that and to kind of pull apart the noise so we have a little room to breathe so we can find our balance again and then to retrain away from those pieces, those survival based thought patterns and feeling patterns that keep us stuck and that keep us from achieving that health, that happiness and the success that we're all looking for in life. And so that became my fascination, is that gap. I started studying two groups of people, the really happy ones, the ones that have that little sparkle in their eye. They have a different smile. There's a different energy about them. You just want to be near them. And
Yes.
another group of people, right? And they have this infectious energy. You just want more. Or you want to put them in your pocket and carry them around for the day. Or the really successful people, like what separates those that manage to have such a massive vision for their lives and the rest of us that didn't even dare to dream that big? So I became really fascinated with these gaps in human behavior, and I wanted to make that my field of study. And then these principles just kind of appeared to me, and I said this is what's going to help people, because I think when we start in life, we just get these very basic marching orders, right? Do well in school, then maybe it's pick a major, pick a college, university, or pick a career, get a job if you're deciding to maybe go to trade school or do something like that. And then it's, I don't know, work your way through the corporate ladder, up the corporate ladder, get the house, get the car, get the kids. And where is happiness in there? There's no discussion of it. And so most of us have just kind of like stumbled and fumbled our way through life trying to understand what this is and how do we feel at peace, and is peace part of happiness, is joy part of happiness, is gratitude part of happiness. And I finally realized it's kind of complex, and it's a very personal prescription. What would make you happy, Gabby, is not going to be exactly the same for me or my
Sure.
spouse, my family members or my kids or your friends or your colleagues. And so it really has to be a prescriptive plan that's really personalized to the things that bring you joy and make you feel the most excited and most alive. And I think because we got these basic marching orders, most of us are living out the expectations of others, right? We're maybe studying or entered in the workforce based on what our parents wished for us or what our colleagues wished for us or what our, loved ones wished for us. And at a certain point, we're starting to ask those questions. And I think COVID had a really interesting, it's thrown us some interesting curveballs, and I think it's given us a lens, right? We had this whole concept of the great resignation,
Yep.
where people were, I think, they were getting stimulus checks. They didn't have to worry so much about being out of work, and they got to finally stop and say, oh, wait a second, I'm not on the hamster wheel anymore. So if I don't have to get up and go to that job that I don't particularly love, or that makes me frustrated every day, or that doesn't seem to satisfy me much, then what do I want? What do I want to do? And now there's the great boomerang, because people have left their jobs and now they're going back, and they realize, oh, well, guess what? Wherever you go, there you are. So until you fix this thing called you, and you really tap into what is your winning formula for happiness and success, you're just going to take that set of frustration, you're going to move it from one job to the next, or one city to the next. And so I think we really need to figure out who we are authentically meant to be. And the more we align with that, happiness starts to really show up for us. And success does as well. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think you're right on two parts. One, that 6 weeks, a lot of like trainers have 6 week programs because it creates that habitual
Yes.
movement. You're doing something for 6 weeks and then people tend to continue. I mean, obviously people do drop off, but you have people that stick with it for 6 weeks and then you have now created a habit. But also I do really believe that COVID did change a lot of things for a lot of people. And also, aside from the Great Resignation, people went, oh, I do want to concentrate on my health because my life is more important than that hamster wheel. And
Yes.
how I feel is more important than going to work every single day for somebody else. And, you know, I want to be happy. I want to
Hmm.
be happy in what I'm doing. And, we did see a lot of people quit their jobs and go into completely different fields. I mean, I know a couple people that did it personally, completely leave what they had been doing for 10, 12, 15, 20 years even, and do
Right.
something totally different. And it's interesting because it shined a light on things that people were really, really not happy with
Hmm.
for the first time in who knows how long, And I don't think we really have looked at that. Mental health and happiness hasn't been ever looked at. Not
Yeah.
in our lifetime, maybe ever, really. I think I could say, going to other countries, maybe smaller countries that don't have as much emphasis on work and job and corporate,
Hmm.
their idea of happiness is very, very different.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
focus so much on more on family, they focus so much more on time and life. Whereas I think especially here in the US, we focus on goals and careers,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's you're always in that fight or flight. You're right,
Hmm.
your phone goes off and it's like, and here I am, with my Apple Watch. Every time it goes off,
I
it's
can't get an Apple Watch.
it's constant. It's
Yes, it is.
constant.
Yeah.
And you really have to take a look at that. But so actually talking about corporate, you have a unique focus on workplace wellness, and the challenge of careerists. Can you
Hmm.
explain a little bit what is the careerist? Can you explain a little bit about like your work wellness take on workplace wellness?
Oh, sure. Well, let's define careerist first of all, because not everyone wants to be a business owner, entrepreneur. It's a different mindset. It requires independent thinking, but a much larger risk taker, and it's not for everyone. So the
Mm-mm.
careerist is really, people that enter into a career field and choose longevity, and so they're going to work their way up a corporate ladder. They're maybe going to stay at a company 5, 10 years, maybe 20 or 30 years. They may do a number of different roles as they navigate and find work that they enjoy. So that's what I would term a careerist is basically not the entrepreneur, but somebody working for someone else in a career where they can excel at. And, some people are happy here. Some people are happy with an accelerated career path. So it really just depends on you. But in terms of workplace wellness, the program 6 Weeks to Happy is actually going to be morphing into a corporate product called 6 Weeks to Workplace Wellness, and that'll be coming out next Q1 of next year. Because when I was in the corporate world, you know, I just remember years and years where we were downsizing in terms of staff, but the
Mm-hmm.
workload wasn't downsizing. The workload was staying the same or increasing. And so we were asked to do more and more with less staff, which meant everyone is pretty strung out. Most people I know wake up exhausted every day versus waking up feeling rested and balanced and joyful and excited about their day. And what we were getting in corporate back in the day was we would get access to a gym membership and we would maybe have HR would bring in some wellness expert that would do these, either a lunch and learn or they would do a 15-minute stretch break. That's not really enough to deal with this level of mental and emotional exertion and that level of physical exhaustion. So I think what COVID did, certainly for me, and because of my coaching background, what I was able to see, and it's funny because when you're a coach, you're still a human being at the same time. So although you can cognitively understand what might be happening to you, you're still experiencing these phenomenon as a human being. And so what I was experiencing was at the start of it, when we all went into lockdown, it was such an unknown world, right? There was so much fear and frustration and anxiety. There was so much uncertainty, and we as humans don't process uncertainty well. And what happened was most of us would wake up and you have that little volume knob, which is your stress and anxiety meter, I call it. And most of us would dial it down and we'd just get on with our day because we were distracted and we were busy, so we had to just get on with it. And when we got stuck at home during COVID, that volume knob somehow got turned up for us. And we all could not deny that level of stress and anxiety that was living within us. And so I think we all became a lot more aware that we need to handle our stress better, that we need to learn how to manage our mental and emotional health better. But most people aren't given the tools to do that. And so, what I came to realize in this whole study of happiness and positive psychology and how the brain works is that we actually have a four-body system. We have a spiritual and energetic body, we have a mental body, an emotional body, and our physical body. So, when most people think of health, and you're from the health and fitness field with the Pilates and the work you do in the fitness field, we think of nutrition and exercise. Okay, we might put in some stress management in there, maybe some yoga, breathing techniques. Okay. But we're really not looking at the mental and emotional. How well are we handling the things that we have to process in a given day? Are we managing our energy? Like I said, most of us wake up exhausted. We forget that we are energetic beings. So if you think of it in the world of science, and we are made up of atoms and energy, and we are like a battery. At the end of the day, we need to recharge. We can't exist without food, water, and sleep. And most of us aren't getting enough of any of those in the right ways to wake up feeling rested and recharged every day. So I think learning how to manage your energy and regulate your energy actually helps you build emotional intelligence, because if you take away the things that are exhausting you and you're not running on empty anymore, it's so much easier to learn how to manage your emotional self. And so that reaches you in your professional life because you're going to have less of a short fuse at work with frustrating situations and team members. You're going to have a lot less frustration in your personal relationships at home because if you're not strung out and you're not exhausted, you're not going to act out. You're able to manage your emotions a little bit more. You're able to handle that situation or a life event that much better because it gives you a pause, right? And so all of these tools were built in. And so the workplace wellness will be a lot of neuroscience and positive psychology techniques to help people take them through a 6-week program to better their mental and emotional health. And the minute you start to work on that, you can see results within a few weeks. Because when you're just looking after your physical body in terms of nutrition and exercise, but you're not processing your mental and emotional processes, your physical body then becomes like an alarm bell. It becomes then your gauge for how well or how not well you're doing in other areas. And so there's so many physical ailments that
Absolutely.
manifest,
100%.
right? Because of
100%.
stress.
Autoimmune diseases,
Thank
cancer,
you.
Diabetes, heart disease. Absolutely.
Yes, chronic inflammation,
Yep.
chronic pain and injury, all of that can be actually reduced once you start managing and you have the tools to actually manage your mental and emotional health better. Suddenly the body starts to heal itself because it's been screaming at you for years. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm very excited to be able to share that soon as well.
So, can you explain actually what happiness is and how do you measure happiness? I mean, obviously it's different in how people find it is different, but
Mhm.
what actually is it and how can each individual measure it?
Yeah, that's well, interesting question, and I'll answer it in two parts. So the first part is, how would you define happiness, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then the second piece is what are the KPIs? Like what are your measures of success?
Yeah.
How will you know what's your evidence procedure for happiness? Like
Right.
how will you know
Yeah.
when you actually reach there? And it's so funny because so first I'll define it and then I'll talk about the measures of happiness. So it's not an easy answer. If it was, I think we would have all figured it out at this
Sure.
point.
We'd all
Just
be
like
skipping
being,
around in the fields.
there you go. Just like being in the best shape of your life. We know the equation. It's eat healthy and exercise
Right.
more. We know the equation, but reaching there is not as simple, right? So why is that? And so as I was looking to try and define happiness, I realized, well, it needs to incorporate a state of optimal physical well-being, because again, if you don't have your health and if you're in pain, then your life quality is diminished already. So you need to be in optimal health. You need to have enough strength and vitality and energy to get through your day. Okay. Next, it needs to incorporate a mental and emotional state where you feel like you are more in control and empowered with how you want to think and feel in any given day, because most of us wake up feeling stressed and tired, and then that plays out throughout our entire day as if we're on autopilot. Well, how do you shift that language? How do you shift the mindset? How do you shift the story? Because I promise you, if I ask you, if I asked 100 people, how do you want to feel today? Nobody's going to say to me, I'd like to continue feeling as stressed and anxious as I did yesterday, because that was really, really fun for me. Most of us would say, you know what, I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel a sense of calm and certainty that my bills are looked after, that my children and my family are okay, that I don't have to worry anymore, and I want to feel joy and I want to feel freedom and I want more quality time with my loved ones and I want to feel really connected. And so I thought, happiness really needs to incorporate the four bodies, aligning with who you are authentically supposed to be in this world. And so that means looking at your needs and looking at your values and looking at your personal prescription for what is happiness for you. And so in this book, we go into all of these tools and how to break that out into hours per day and per week. So you know what your personal plan looks like. And so, to define happiness, I would say it includes optimal physical well being, but also a state or a mindset where you can intentionally or consciously choose how you want to think and feel in any given moment so that you're living a life of peace, one that excites you, one that brings you as much stability or adventure, whatever your values are, because they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum, but we all need both.
Sure.
And so, what is that winning formula that really makes you feel your very best, your most joyful, your most certain and deserving and worthy of being here? And it includes purpose as well. And then, what are the measures of happiness? Well, if you look at countries like Bhutan, who started measuring gross national happiness, and I happen to work with some of the most prominent members of Bhutan, from the royal family down to the former minister of education and the chairman of the Reiki Center for Happiness in IIT in India, which is like the MIT of this world. And he's got a happiness school, which is incredible. So I've had the opportunity to work with some extraordinary people. And in my research of how do you measure happiness, well, it's all self-rated. Nobody can tell you you're happy but you. So you have to be able to measure yourself. And so there's a few different rankings. One of the happiness assessments works on life satisfaction, like how satisfied are you with the different areas of your life. And another works on social comparison. And what we've actually found is social comparison is counter to happiness. Do not compare yourself to others. It's really all about you. And so the final, what I settled on, and I use this as an assessment in the book so that you can measure your progress as you go. And it's what are the measures of well-being and what are the measures of happiness? So one of them is sleep quality. If you're not handling your stress, if you're not processing past life events and past trauma, if you're not handling your mental and emotional processes, you're not going to be sleeping well. The minute you start doing something right, your sleep quality improves almost immediately, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely one of the measures. The second measure is how much physical tension are you feeling in your body? Some of us aren't even aware of how much physical tension we hold, whether it's tightness in our chest or, our shoulders. And as a coach, you learn to read somebody's entire physiology. Are they sitting up? Are they leaning forward? Are they slumped in their chair? Are they sitting up straight? Are they sitting confidently? Are they aligned? Do they have that sort of energy flowing throughout their body? Where are their shoulders? Are they up by their ears because they're so tightly wound and stressed? What is their breathing like? Is it shallow? I remember going to a doctor's appointment once, and I had a nurse just setting me up for a dermatology procedure, and she was breathing so fast. I thought she was about to have a heart attack. I had to stop and ask her, "Are you okay?" So what do you mean? I said, "You're breathing so fast. I feel like there's something really wrong." And she said, "I didn't even realize." And
Hmm.
I mean, it sounded to me like tachycardia. Like it sounded to me like her heart was racing through her
Yeah.
chest. And so some people aren't even aware. So that's another gauge is, how much tension do you feel in the body? And then another gauge is how many feelings, how are you able to manage your emotional levels, your energy levels? And then the last one I've used in this book is what are your overriding feelings throughout the day? Do you have more feelings of stress and anxiety, or do you have more powerful, elevated emotions like gratitude and hope and love and compassion and joy and freedom? Because the more you do this work, the more you're moving away from stress, fear, and anxiety and towards happiness and stability and feeling joy and freedom and all of those wonderful gushy little emotions that bring us light and make us feel like we're really thriving in life.
Yeah. So
Great question.
you have an app. It is called the GetZend app. Can you
Yes.
explain a little bit about it, what it does, what exactly it is, and how people can find it?
Sure. Well, it's in both app stores and Google Play and on the Apple App Store. And I wanted to take all of these tools. That was my first attempt at trying to give people these tools. I thought I had found my own way of finding peace and feeling excited about my life and moving beyond survival and towards thriving. And I said, why don't I build all of these tools into an app so we can just take a no-brainer approach to this, and you can do a 15 or 20-minute guided meditation. It centers your breathing in your brain, so you're triggering your parasympathetic nervous response, which is your opposite to fight or flight response. It's your calm response. So it already incorporates that. It uses transformative tech called binaural beats, which is a neuroscience tool to tune your brainwave frequency into a more desired state of mind. So if you're feeling really agile and you want to be calm, let's say you've just finished your workday and you're a little hyperactive and you want to just like get into some deep breathing and calm your brain waves into a calmer state of being. We use different brainwave activities for different frequency ranges for different levels of activity. So it uses transformative tech to tune your brain waves in. And then finally, it uses a whole range of subconscious tools because we are 5% conscious mind, 95% subconscious, unconscious mind. And so if you can just learn how to tap into that 95%, you really start to retrain your brain away from all of that stress and noise and get it back to calm. And when you get it back to calm, amazing things start to happen. First of all, you start integrating your conscious and unconscious minds. Why is that important? Well, your unconscious houses all of your barriers to success. It houses all of your fear patterns. And if you want to change your behavior, that's the secret sauce. You have to get in there and figure out how to do that. And I do get into it in the book. We go into all of those fear patterns so you can see yourself in all of these examples because it really is just part of the human experience. And so that was really exciting as well. And so the GetZend app has all of these tools built in, and it's
Awesome.
basically like a guided meditation app. You can use it for deep healing because I had a back injury that I healed from using these same techniques. And we were talking about it earlier in the show, whereas if you're not handling your mental and emotional stuff, it comes out in your physical body.
Yep.
And so just by using these, you tapping into your own body's mind body healing capabilities, you can actually heal from so many things: autoimmune disorders, physical injuries that have been resistant to healing. And so it has that, it has some deep sleep, and it has some other fun ones as well to get focused or get into strategic thinking zone, get into performance zone, or just set your intentions for the day. So you start your day intentionally versus on autopilot in stress mode and then spiraling down for the rest of the day. Instead of that, start feeling peaceful and just see how differently your day goes.
How long are the meditations on the app?
There, you can choose from 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes.
Okay.
So give it a shot. I
Yeah.
couldn't do much when I first started. I got to about 5 or 7 minutes a day. Every little
And
bit,
that's all you need. I mean, to
yeah.
start. I mean, that's all you need, really. That, like you were talking about the changes in your brain. They say it that's all it takes is about 5 to 7 minutes a day can
Mhm.
change the structure. The structure. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Actually, yes, you're
Yeah,
you're
of your
absolutely
brain.
you're absolutely right. From a neuroscience perspective, we can now see brain scans of what happens to
Right.
people when they're practicing mindfulness and meditation like
Yep.
that. And so you have increased focus on and productivity. Why? Because it actually increases gyrification in the brain, which is your brain's processing power. So imagine like back in the day when we had slow laptops and now we have quad
Yeah.
processors.
Yeah.
Everything is processed super fast. Well, the same thing happens to your brain with a 5 to 7 minute meditation in the morning.
hmm
You want to be more focused, productive, but also much calmer and quiet those little voices in your head telling you not today, today's not the day. Just you want to quiet those down so you can focus and choose what you want to do in the day. It's a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're looking for that app, it is in the App Store. It's GetZend, Zend, correct?
Correct.
And
Yes.
your website for your coaching is getzend.com, www.getzend.com, spelled the same. And then you also have a website for your book, and it's 6weeks to happy.com,
Correct.
the number six. Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with today that you think is important?
Absolutely. I think most of us think of life, like I said, with this very basic set of marching orders. And, I really think of these as core life skills. I want to get this in the schools and teach this to kids so it doesn't take them 30 years to unpack like it took us
Yeah.
30 years.
Mm.
And what I
Or
found in
longer.
or longer, yes, exactly. And what I found in my coaching practice is when we were mapping out goals for my coaching clients, very few of them, when I had them visualize the end state, could actually tell me if it brought them any closer to happiness. And I thought, well, that's amazing and profound. Why would you be pursuing a goal if you don't even know if it's going to bring you more joy, freedom? Are you chasing money? What are you chasing? It's a goal, but there's no happiness at the end of it. And so I decided to create this tool for people. And so it's available for your audience at 6weekstohappy.com, and they can download it for free and just start to map out your own personal plan towards happiness. Because once you do that, you get a really clear picture of how your life is structured today and what little changes you can make just to start aligning towards happiness and success. So that's available for your group today as well. Don't wait. Life is too short.
Yeah, no kidding. It really is. A blink of an eye.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I will link that in my show notes as well, so people can find that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Such great questions and such a
Yeah.
wonderful discussion. Thank you for the work you do as well, Gabby.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening today, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the FitMinute podcast, Fitness for Real People, with your host, Gabrielle Mazar. If you would like more information on today's episode, you can find it in the show notes and on Gabrielle's website at www.destinationfitcations.com. Visit to keep an eye out for upcoming Fitcations. Be sure to share the show, give this podcast a review, and subscribe so you won't miss an episode. Join us next week to hear more stories from people just like you. This has been the FitMinute podcast, Fitness for Real People, with Gabrielle Mazar.